Welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. If you'd like to join the program, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840 is the number to call. We were talking about Islam before the break and got this story that I touched on about Al-Qaeda and this English language magazine called Inspire. They now have released 10 of these. They're glossy and they're in English. They are designed to recruit and train and promote jihad, the advance of Islam at the point of the sword or under threat or use of a bomb in the West. That's why it's in English. And it contains, the latest edition contains extensive lessons on how to torch parked cars and how to cause traffic accidents. And it lists 11 public figures, including author Salman Rushdie. He's the author of Satanic Verses. They've had a fatwa out on this guy's head since 1989. And these 11 public figures, including Terry Jones, who's the pastor in Florida, Geert Wilders, who's the parliamentarian in Holland, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who's been a guest on this program. They are among the list of 11 that are wanted dead or alive for crimes against Islam. Now, these people have committed no crimes against anyone. I don't know. Did I give the number out, by the way? 888-589-8840 is the number to call, 888-589-8840. So their only crime against Islam is that they are critical of the violence that animates genuine Islam. And again, we're not talking about some kind of perverted form of Islam. This is Islam as it actually exists. Here's an excerpt from the piece in the Daily Mail. In a prominent feature titled "No Parking, Are There Any Safe Parking Lots Out There?" an author identified as Ibnul Irhab lays out step-by-step procedures for lighting multiple cars in the same vacant parking lot ablaze, turning it into a massive explosion. So what they're saying, look, there's no parking lot that's going to be safe. Parking lot at a school, parking lot at a college, parking lot at a shopping center, parking lot at an airport. None of them are going to be safe. And here's how to torch them. Send them all up in flames. Vehicles, they say, are easy to torch, and they have to be parked somewhere. So get them while they're sitting there. Then there's a whole other section on causing road accidents, just using cooking oil. You put enough cooking oil on a turn in a windy road, says you don't have to worry about retaliation. You just place the oil, you slather the road up with cooking oil and just vanish, and cars slide off the road into the ditch. So that's what's going on with Al-Qaeda. And here's a story from the Washington Beacon entitled Al-Qaeda in America. And this is the thing that ought to sober us. Here's how the piece begins by Ryan Willard. American citizens are participating in terrorist activities as members of Al-Qaeda and are likely to continue to do so in the future, according to a new study by the Henry Jackson Society. Future attacks against the American homeland will be less organized, less complex. They're just going to be more numerous and more likely to be conducted by citizens and long-term residents of the United States. This is a quote from former CIA and National Security Agency Director, retired General Michael Hayden. He said this during an event launching the study at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. The title of the study is Al-Qaeda in the United States. Listen to this. It examined 171 individuals who were convicted for Al-Qaeda related offenses. Now, you hear how Al-Qaeda, you think some guy living in a cave with goats in Afghanistan or Somalia or Pakistan. So this study says, look, there's 171 individuals that have actually been convicted of offenses on behalf of Al-Qaeda. They committed offenses or they were responsible for suicide attacks. This is between 1997 and 2011. Here's what they discovered. This is Al-Qaeda. The majority of the threat was from the United States. 54% were U.S. citizens. Let me repeat that. 54% of the Al-Qaeda-related offenses were done by United States citizens in the name of Islam and in the name of Allah, and 36% of these were born in the United States. And you start thinking about the implications here, where you have people born in the United States are being recruited to Islam, they're being radicalized, and then they're out there committing offenses in the name of Allah, trying to blow up innocent infidels, apes and pigs like you and me. And so this has implications, obviously, for immigration. I think one of the things this clearly supports is the suspension of any kind of immigration from Muslim-majority nations. Congress has the right to establish whatever rules for immigration they want. Nobody's got a constitutional right to immigrate to the United States. I think it's time to stop Muslim immigration to these shores. It's time to stop building mosques. You know, Bill Federer made the point, look, every mosque is a recruiting center, potential location of a cell that is going to go out there and take action on behalf of Al-Qaeda. So I think it's time to stop building mosques. And according to the Constitution, as the founders gave it to us, states would have the authority to regulate religious expression in their own states, and they could do that if they chose. And then I think the story of Major Hassan would indicate it's time for us to stop allowing Muslims to become a part of the military. I just think it does not make sense to me to have somebody recruited wearing uniform in the United States who has a sacred sworn obligation to kill his fellow soldiers, to kill American citizens. Now let's grab this Joe Biden quote. This is clip number 7, 888-589-8840. And this is Joe Biden talking to AIPAC, which is an American-Israeli Political Action Committee or conference. So a very pro-Israel thing. And, of course, they're concerned about Iran. And, you know, what we've seen with Barack Obama, he's all talk. He's all bluster when it comes to the Middle East. There's no follow-through. There's no intentionality. There's really no willingness to use force whatsoever to protect Israel. In fact, everything he's done and said to this point would lead to the alienation of Israel and the isolation of Israel. Well, here's Joe Biden. And again, as you listen to this, it sounds tough. It sounds firm, but it's just all bloviation. It's just all hot air. Let's listen.
Strategic commitment. Let me make clear what that commitment is. It is to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, period. Period. End of discussion, period. Prevent, not contain, prevent. The president has flatly stated that. And as many of you in this room have heard me say, and he always kids me about this, we'll be in the security room and I know that Debbie Wasserman Schultz knows this because she hears it. He always says, you know, he'll turn to other people and say, as Joe would say, big nations can't bluff. Well, big nations can't bluff. And presidents of the United States cannot and do not bluff. And President Barack Obama is not bluffing. He is not bluffing.
You know, it's interesting to me, you know, when somebody has to repeatedly say he's not bluffing, you know, why do you have to do that? I mean, did anybody have to wonder whether Ronald Reagan was bluffing when he took on the Soviet Union? Did anybody have to wonder, regardless of your criticism of George H.W. Bush, did anybody have to wonder whether he was bluffing about going into Iraq, Operation Desert Storm? Did anybody wonder whether or not he was serious about that? You only have to repeatedly try to convince people you're not bluffing when everybody knows that's exactly what you're doing. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Justin in Ashburn, Georgia. Justin, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mr. Fisher.
Hey.
I'm a long-time listener to your program, and I certainly appreciate everything that you put out here on the airwaves. Anyway, I'm a former Army Ranger. I did 2 tours in Afghanistan and the Kandahar province, to be exact. So I'm definitely familiar with the ways and techniques of Al-Qaeda, and I'd really like to know in the Quran where they specify it's okay to put their wives and children in front of them while they return offensive fire on American soldiers. I'd like to read that because I haven't found it in the Quran yet. But the main reason that I'm calling is I am a newlywed, and I'm a licensed concealed carry weapons holder, and sometimes I carry open, sometimes I carry concealed, and when I'm with my family and my newlywed, I tend to carry open. And my wife has a real problem with that. You know, she kind of nags at me about, you know, why do you always carry a gun? Why does it have to be such a big gun? You know, and you know, I try to explain to her, you know, honey, things can happen at any time, and most criminals are cowards. And you know, just the sight of somebody having a gun can stop the situation before it ever happens. And I was just, you know, kind of wanting to get your take on it. Am I being a little extreme, or am I making sense? Because, you know, I heard your last quote there was something like 54% of attacks in America are by Americans, you know.
Well, and Justin, I'm, you know, the purpose of the program is not marriage counseling, but I agree with you on principle that an armed society is a polite society, that the sight of a gun often is enough to stop the bad guys. What I would encourage you to do, Justin, if you are convinced that this is the thing that is right for you to do for the protection of your wife and your family, what I would encourage you to do is the head of your home, don't just put your foot down and say, I'm going to do that. Ask your wife if she will support you and follow you in this. You can tell her, look, I'm doing this because I love you. I'm doing this because I want to protect you. I want to protect my family. I want to protect our children. Will you support me in doing this? And then leave the decision in her hands. Focal Point AFR Talk will be back after the news.
American Family Radio, AFR Talk.